What's up, kids? How's everybody doing this fine Friday? Y'all made me work last week. We went like 35 minutes, and I still had like 5 or 6 questions I didn't even get to, and that's what we're going to start off with this week. But first, the studio is coming along, slowly but surely. My big project for this week is this wall over here. And that is a veneer type wood on panels, and each one of them is about 1 foot wide and 4 feet tall. Now the real trick is there was a window over there for people that had paid attention. Not anymore. Well, the window's still there, it's just closed off. I'm telling you, if I never see another one of these hangers again in my life, that'll be just fine, because I've still got more to do. Right over my shoulder, that one, I'm putting up metal slat wall. Going to be 2 4 foot wide sections going all the way up to those shelves. Yeah, I'm tired of doing this. I'm ready to work in the studio and not on it. But speaking of that, over my other shoulder, that little machine there, I went down to, Gail and I went down to Tampa to see Sting and Billy Joel. What a concert. Really a lot of fun. And I've been looking for a KLX, and I said, well, let's expand my net since we're going to be driving all the way to Tampa and back. And sure enough, there was one in Gainesville, Georgia that we picked up on the way back, and there she sits. Now, we haven't announced this, but I guess I could tell y'all. I think the projected plan on this one is to convert it into a pit bike, maybe have a pro racer that we know race it at least one time in the stock class. Then we're talking about giving it away. What do y'all think about that? I think it's going to be a fun. I mean, we're going to do it regardless of what you say now, but I think it's going to be pretty cool. What say you? I'm just curious. All right, let's swing around and look at what I may have missed. Nothing there. All right, the first one. This one was actually asked about, a third of the way through, and I couldn't come up with it off the top of my head. Sorry, I'm not an Encyclopedia Britannica, nor do I have a photographic memory. Wig Splitter had asked me, what is the valve clearances for a 2005 Suzuki Katana 750? Well, according to the Suzuki website, on the intake, and this is measured when cold in millimeters, is 0.1 to 0.15. That's your range. On the exhaust, 0.18 to 0.23. So there you go, Wig Splitter. As promised, there's your information. Chris R., he had also asked, one more for me. Dang it, I skipped over it. Sorry, or didn't answer it. 04 Raptor 660. It sat for a while since last ride or exercise. On starting up, it smoked a little, but then the next week we rode, there wasn't any smoke. Oil getting past the seals from the valves, that is a safe bet. I mean, it's almost impossible for the oil to seep up past the rings. So more than likely from it sitting so long, and I've seen this especially with some of my project cars that I let sit up for several months. Yeah, it's going to blow out smoke there for a few seconds, but nothing to really worry about, because it's just pulling it right past those seals up on the valves. So nothing to be concerned about. Now, if it goes on for 3 or 4 minutes, then you may be heading toward a problem, but not just for that initial puff of smoke and then it burns it off within a minute or so. Jad Walters had asked me, hey, John, I've seen folks trying to lower the RPMs of Kawasaki's, especially the 1000s, by removing the primary spring and the primary clutch. So we'd love to hear your take on this. I get why people are doing it, but I'm not in favor of it. The main reason is because that spring is there to balance, or the yin and the yang of the weights, and that's going to tell where the sheave to be at a specific RPM. And if you take away that counterbalance, which is the spring itself, it's just going to sit there and flop around. And when it does that, that is going to put a tremendous strain on your belt when you come off the throttle and then get back into it. The sheave isn't where it's supposed to be, and then all of a sudden, wham! It's getting thrown in to a position that it's too far away from. That spring and the weights, that's holding it at a certain distance for that RPM. And if you take that away, it's going to be really tough on your belt. And I would imagine by the length of time that it takes for the sheave to normalize and clamp back down on the belt, since it has no referencing point, that's gonna really screw up its performance as far as your acceleration times. I would hazard to guess, if you did a rolling run, it'd probably take you out second to maybe half a second to a second slower. If you were going from 10 miles an hour up to 45 or 50. I mean, 1 second, that isn't the end of the world, but a lot of people spend a lot of money to buy that 1 second, and you're basically throwing it away and making it harder on your machine. Now, if your goal is for it to engage at a lower RPM, then change your weights. Don't just change the other side of the equation. But keep in mind, and if you do that, it's going to sacrifice a little bit of your top end control versus getting off the line quicker. I mean, when they build these things, they try to gauge it for the median area. I mean, if you're going to do rock crawling, well, then you change out your weights to accommodate a lower engagement or quicker engagement. But that is not what you want to have when you're out there playing in the sun or the sand and you're running it at a high RPM. In that case, you would weight it completely different. Matter of fact, I think we're supposed to be doing a video on that soon, so be on the lookout for it, as far as choosing the correct weights for whatever style ride, or tuning your riding style with weights. And especially if you've done any type of enhancements, like increasing your wheel diameter and or weight of your rotational weight by going with wider tires. It all plays into the story. All right, probably more than you wanted to know right now, huh, Jad? But hey, that's my answer. Don't do it. All right, DJ George Castellanos, 2021 Ninja 650, only 145 miles on it, and I believe the gears are stuck together. Okay, starts up fine, gotcha. Hold the clutch in, pop into first gear, and it jumps forward pretty hard and stalls out. When in neutral, it rolls back and forth just fine. Any ideas? I don't think this is a gear problem. I think this is a clutch problem. And it almost sounds like it's not engaging at all. And if you've only got 145 miles on it, chances are it may still be in warranty. So I think I'd be running it up to the dealership and take a peek. If memory serves, that 650, it's still using a cable. So I would hazard to guess that something's gone wrong with that very early, with only 145 miles on it. All right, Mr. SMG ALB. Hey, John, my 2003 Suzuki Vitara 800 cranks, but I throttle it up, it dies out, even in neutral. What should I check for? Well, it sounds like it's starving for fuel, in my humble opinion. So that intermediate circuit is what I would be searching for. I'm pretty sure this is going to be a carbureted unit. So I wonder if it's not your low jet, but your primary acceleration jet. I wonder if it's stopped up. That's where I would start anyway. Adam had asked, 2015 Kawasaki Vulcan S650, not priming when key is turned on. Any help? Well, you're already running in the right direction. We need to start shaking the electrical system. Start with the simplest stuff first. Put a test meter at the fuel pump itself and see if you're reading anything, then work your way backwards. If the test light doesn't light up, or your digital voltmeter tells you there's nothing there. If there's voltage there, then you found it. It's probably going to be the motor itself. Replace it and go on with your day. All right, that catch. Well, I didn't leave that many on the table, but I think I was just tired of talking last time. So that catches us up, and now we're going to switch over to this week. Really? Only 4 questions? Man, y'all are going to let me duck out of here early. But that's all right. You hit me hard one week and let me skate the next. That's all right. That's all right. Kerm, evening, John. How's tricks? Tricks are good. Tricks are always good. From Kerm in the UK. Yeah, it would be evening over there, wouldn't it? What do y'all, 6 hours ahead of us, something like that? Yep, maybe 7. Sad that I don't know off the top of my head. Well, good evening to you as well, Kerm. All right, Nick K. Been a long time, John. How's it going? Nick, I haven't seen your name pop in a while. Where have you been hiding? And as you can tell, we've changed locations. The new studio is coming along. Tracy and I are going to be recording probably on that. I think Josh may join us. So we're going to have a full house next week. And maybe get some actual work done, even though I'm not completely done setting it up. But hey, all the tools are in here, so we are good to go. Nick also asked me, what are my thoughts on CF Moto? They're an up-and-comer for a Chinese company. I mean, it is a close facsimile to one of the Japanese brands. You could take your pick as to which one you think that they are trying to emulate. Are they even with them? Not yet, or not as of the last time I rode one, which has been a couple of years. It was just a little bit slower, didn't handle quite as well, didn't accelerate quite as well, didn't stop quite as effectively as like a Yamaha or a Kawasaki, which I feel is probably what they were, or the mark that they were aiming for when they went into the market. Are they going to be a contender? Yes, once they've got the engineering skills to do this. Once they blaze their own path instead of just trying to copy somebody else's, I think they could be a force to be reckoned with. My money, I know that they cost 20-30% less than a comparable Japanese machine. Well, you get what you pay for. I think they're 20-30% less as far as performance wise. So does that say that I don't like them? No, it's just my money. I wouldn't spend it in that direction. I'd rather spend the extra and get what I want instead of getting something that's, in my mind, always going to be a compromise. And like I said, are they going to get even or on even terms with the Japanese equipment? I think so, maybe, but it just hasn't happened yet, not in my humble opinion. A lot of people may say differently, but hey, you ask mine, not theirs. Russell J, changing out my wheel bearing. Should it slide back on the CV axle easy or not? That depends. I've seen both. You've got regular CV joints where of course they're all splined, and when they go through the bearing, they slide through no problem, or into the hub no problem. I've seen others where they have what they call an interference fit. They have to be pushed out, or pushed through, and then drawn back in. One horrid example I can give is for a BMW E36, the M3 specifically. Yeah, you can knock the crap out of it and get it out of the hub, but good luck trying to bring it back in without the special tool to do so. Its chances are, even if you went back with the OEM, it may be a little bit difficult to bring it through because you've got a hub that's worn in or basically matched to that old spline, and now you're bringing in a new one. So the splines may be just that worn area may just be a little bit off from what that new stuff is. But that being said, just make sure you've got plenty of grease and just don't rip your boot when you're trying to knock it back in there. I'm not sure of a tool, but it depends on your make and model that would be required to pull it back in. Perry Ford at Nice Digs. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And we're not even done yet, but I'll give you all a quick 360. Now, keep in mind, it's still a lot of stuff just unorganized and around. But our presentation area, you can see my little CT90, 1968 CT90 followed me over. That's actually my door to get into the main part of the distribution center. Have yourselves a couple of Ox diesel engines. They come in here and do classes every so often. And then just miscellaneous stuff all the way down that hall, or all the way down that wall. And then we'll come back and I'll go back the other direction. Of course, me and my favorite wall now. More cabinets, lighting under them. You've seen that before. And refinish the table, stuff like that. But yeah, it's coming along. And like I said, I am just looking forward to actually working in the place and not on it. I'm tired of writing that every single morning when they ask me, well, John, what did you work on last week? This. But thank you. Sane Max. Hello, John. Hope you're doing well. Yes, I am. This is my first time. I've got a question on an R1 facing an issue. Hope you can guide me. All right, bring it on. I know a little bit about the R1. I'm more versed in the R6, but I can certainly find my way through an R1 engine. Doesn't hold the idle. Okay, so 2012 doesn't hold the idle during cold starts, and absolutely fine once warmed up. I suspect a coolant temp sensor. Yeah, the ECU thinks it's one way when it's not. So I would say you're probably on the right path. I was thinking idle air control valve at first, but since you've zeroed it in on the warm up, that temp sensor may be sending it a false high, I would think. So what is the voltage range on the temp sensor? I can't say off the top of my head, but since nobody else has asked me a question that I haven't been able to at least give an opinion on thus yet, give me the week to dig into it, see what the range should be, and maybe we can guide you through the best way to guide you through it. Sound like a deal? I like having a challenge or an assignment every week. So we'll do that. Hank, if you would make a note of Sane's information and maybe get in touch with him if that's at all possible. Hey, is our other email set up yet? I requested that a couple of weeks ago. That'll make it so much easier. But if it's not set up, I don't want to flood it yet. Let me jump over to our Skype channel. No, doggy hats? Okay. Hank, I'm looking at the feed there. Have we set up that email yet? Yes? No? Are you with us today? Might not be. Oh, he's typing. Not yet. So crap. I can't give you that email yet. Otherwise, it just bounced back to you. But at any rate, tell you what, if you would reach out to us through our multimedia channels, either on Facebook Messenger or on our Instagram account, and see if you and Hank can link up and get any other information that I may need to request from you. Sound like a plan? All right, good enough. Fully surrendered. How do I ask a question? It tells me my question is too long. Most of the time, people break it up into sections, and like I just said, we're going to have an email to where you can send in questions to ask me, and I'll do my best to answer them live, and if not directly. I mean, I realize that I won't be able to get to them all, but we should be able to get to a lot of them. But before we sign off today fully, just go ahead and put it into chunks, like 2 or 3 sentences each, and we'll make note of this before we shut off. And if I can't get to it on this one, if it's that involved of a question, Hank feeds me all these hopefully early in the week. It's mostly my fault if I don't go read them first. And then that gives me time to do a little bit of research and then start off with each Friday, talking or discussing whatever has been asked of me the week before. So if you would, go ahead and do it pretty quick, because it looks like it's going to be a short day for me today. Or a short live feed, whatever you want to call it. Paul, how's it going, Paul? Hey, John, Mom. Oh boy, Mom passed on Friday. Thanks so much for your prayers. Well, Paul, I'm sorry that you're going through this. It's not fun. I lost a parent One of them a long time ago, 1999. Other one, she's still here. I've always thought she was an alien, so maybe that explains why Eloise is still with us. She's tough as nails. That's just all there is to it. Hopefully, I've got enough of her longevity genes that I'll be able to stick around for a while. Fortunately, my dad was taken away far, far too early, but to quote Billy Joel, only the good die young. So I should be around for a while. All right. Fully surrendered. You got to hurry up. Okay. Well, there's somebody else ask a question, so we'll be able to go a little bit further. Outrageous penalty. Hey, John, my Brute 750 sometimes is blocked in the gear and goes forward alone or in reverse depending on the gear stock. All right. Definitely going to need to go in there and clean your primary sheave. That's what's happening. It is pinching down on that belt and causing it to creep, regardless of what gear you've got it in. We've done a couple of different ones, and I think I did one on the Brute Force of what it takes to go through and clean that up. I mean, it's not quite as messy as, let's say, a Yamaha Grizzly, because it doesn't have a bunch of grease in it, but there are several different wear points that are bushings that you're going to need to go in and potentially replace. But it sounds like you definitely need to break it down and then go through it, get it cleaned up, because it is not letting it expand all the way out, letting that belt just kind of free spin in the middle, because it's still pinching it and making it try to move forward. All right, does that one have a Brute Force? I don't think it's got the secondary clutch like the centrifugal clutch like the Yamaha does. Nah, I'm going to stick with my first answer. It's going to be your primary. Take a look at it, and it's probably going to need a little bit of rebuilding to go in there. Fully Surrendered did go ahead and send in the question. I'm going to read through it real quick, but I'm projecting that this is going to be complicated. We'll see if I can answer it off my hip, and if not, I'll do the research and start off with it next week. 2008 KFX 450R, stroked and bored to 512, carb swap for 39 millimeters, FCR 39 millimeters. I used idle jets from 48 to 60 and very hard to start. Usually I have to turn the idle way up. It pops and sounds like it wants to start, but very difficult, hot or cold. Runs great when I get it started. Valves are clearanced properly. Well, that was the first place I was going to run, was your intake valves. But if you're telling me that they're clearanced properly, then that leads me back to a fuel issue. Evidently, she is just, especially with this increased bore and stroke, she is just really fuel hungry on startup. An old trick that I'd seen on several MGBs that have been modified. Talk about taking a right-hand turn in a different venue, is using a primer. And I wonder if you're going to end up having to do this on yours as well. Even on some of the Honda machines, like the Foreman, they actually had a primer at the very bottom of the bowl on the carburetor where it would shoot fuel directly down the throat of the carburetor to get it started up. It sounds like yours is wanting the same thing. Maybe instead of a primer, but when you get ready to start it, you're going to almost have to flood it by popping the throttle a few times. And I believe on that an FCR carb, that should shoot some directly into the throat if memory serves. It has been a little while. I think the last FCR I worked on was the one for the CRF 450R. But at any rate, I think to solve your question, you maybe just need to get a little bit more fuel at a startup. What do you think? Should I try 41? Okay, the idle jets. Drop it to a 41, but then also bring your idle valve out to what do you have it set at right now? Is it 1.5, 1.25, 1 3/4? Whatever it is, bring it out another quarter and see if that does it. All right. What were you saying? Oh, you need to take out the Outrageous said, I need to take out the battery and the problem goes away. I don't know how the world that's possible. All right, here's one from Jixer53. I'm going to be replacing the clutch and basket on my 2011 GSXR 600. Any pointers or adjustment I should be aware of since this is an OEM clutch and I'm going with new parts? No, nothing that extreme on it. And if you want a video for reference, I'm fairly certain we did the clutch on our 2007 GSXR 1000. Now, granted, your torque's going to be different, and I'm sure the housing is going to be a little bit different. But as far as the construction and just the steps on how to replace an OEM clutch, that may be a good one for you to look at. So, Hank, if you would drop that one in the feed, and Jixer53 could go through it. Other than that, oh, you did see that one. Well, good. Things you should look out for while you're in there. Well, you're replacing the clutch, the basket itself. You might want to take a look at your springs, maybe do a quick measurement on those. If they're supposed to be X amount long and they show up a little bit short, well, that means they've lost a little bit of their clamping force. So you might think about replacing the springs as well, unless you're telling me it's all new and you're going to replace those as well. Other than that, the inner drum, are you going to be replacing that along with the outer basket? Because that inner drum, it'll start to get those judder marks on it as well. All right, yes, you are. Cool, then you ought to be good to go. And like I said, the 1000 should be at least a guide as to how to walk you through it. Outrageous penalty. Why do you think Kawasaki doesn't upgrade the Brute to a 1000cc after all these years? Could it be to sell parts following the people messing up, tuning bigger bore installs, etc.? What's your opinion? I've often wondered why Kawasaki doesn't go ahead and punch it out, but I would imagine when the 650 came out, I mean, it was groundbreaking, and that engine's been around for a long time. And I would bet that they stressed it or engineered it to the point where the internals really can't take anymore. So if they want to increase the displacement of it by another 25%, there may not be 25% more force, pardon the pun, that the crankshaft or the connecting rod or the internal gearing, it may not be able to take anymore. And to increase it to a 1000, they'd have to redesign the whole thing. Is Kawasaki being a little bit lazy? Well, possibly. But let's face it, that 750, it's not slow. It's not slow at all. Now the current crop of 1000s, yeah, they're going to walk on you. They're going to walk away. But who knows what the Cowie engineers are working on next. They've been really zeroed in on the new side-by-side market. And let's face it, that's the market that everybody's chasing. ATVs, yes, they're still going to be around. But just looking at the sales figures, it's so lopsided. It's easily a 10-to-1. 10-to-1, even in our little Southwest Georgia podunk area that I live in. All right, one more. Y'all did keep me here for the whole time. Good. Make me earn my money. Timmy Rogers. Hi, I have a 2003 Honda 400EX, and I just rebuilt and cleaned the carb. Starts and idles great, but bogs down with throttle. Jets are correct with the exhaust. Any suggestions? Look at your air fuel screw. Where is it? Either way, bring it up either or in. I'd probably go out first, go ahead and richen it up. And if that makes it worse, break it back to where it was and then go in a half or a quarter of a turn. quarter a turn one way or another, and see where that gets you. Jixer Squid, hey John, appreciate you. Big picture question: are we at the end, beginning, or middle of an evolution of what customer want now? Seems like we see more naked bikes. It changes from decade to decade what people are after. I mean, 20 years ago, it was all cruisers. 10 years ago, more sport. 5 years ago, more into the naked bikes. Are we going to go back to the cruisers? I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't want to be in charge of figuring out what's happening next. The newest thing that we're about to focus on this particular channel, we actually started a few years ago. It's the small bore market. The small bore market combined with these semi-trail machines where they've revamped the old CT90, and now you can buy a practically new CT90 called a CT125, the Honda Grom, the Monkey, all of those small bore machines have really started to take off. So are we in the beginnings of that? I'd say we're at the midpoint. Just my opinion. Are we done with it? Not even close. Not even close. Heck, I've got a 110 sitting on my bench that we're going to make a pit bike out of. Well, that's considered a small bore in my world. All right. Okay. That sounds great. Very good. Outrageous penalty. I appreciate these live. I hope you make it as much as we like to be here. I really do. And it's a nice way for me to wrap up the week. Speaking of that, I am going to go ahead and wrap it up. I have friends coming down from Atlanta doing a beef tenderloin on the Big Green Egg. Hopefully I don't screw it up. Well, everybody, thank you for swinging by, spending a little time with us. Love the questions, and appreciate the compliments on the studio. When I'm really done with it, we'll probably do a little intro video of some type, or we can walk you around and through it. Who knows? Maybe give you a peek on the other side of that wall. See how all this stuff gets delivered to you. It's impressive. That's all I can tell you. It's just damned impressive. Well, guys and girls, once again, thank you for dropping by. Everybody have a great weekend, a great week, and God willing, we will see you next Friday at 3. Y'all take care.